Heater box. Well, obviously you can see I've got one taken apart. I've got another one sitting here. I got this one taken apart. This was the original one I was thinking of using. Most of it's pretty decent. The one thing that's bad on a lot of them, is this piece. It's kind of like basically a trough that the evaporator core sits in for the air conditioning. And they just rot out. That's all there is to it, because that's where all the condensation goes, and then it flows out these two little pipes. So it's designed to hold water. Well, they painted them from the factory. They're black, but you know, there's only about so much you can do with something like that. And then there was a giant rat's nest in there, so it just looks horrible. It'll probably clean up. Most of it'll clean up. I got a few little bits and pieces that are bad, but I could probably use that one. Heater core, I think, was actually fine, because it was still full of antifreeze. But I have another one here, so I'm going to take this one apart and see what this looks like. Maybe that piece will be better in here. I've got one little vent piece that's broke out. Not that big of a deal, but you know, still like to have everything functioning exactly the way it's supposed to. That one came out of a 78. This one came out of a 79. Realistically, there's absolutely no difference. So like I said, the first one I took apart, this one and all this stuff over here, that was all 78. That's a metal one. This one came out of a 79. The bottom is plastic. They figured it out. It obviously took them a few years, but at least for 78 and 79, I guess, is now the AC heater box of choice to get one of these that isn't rotten. So this one, I don't know, I'll probably keep, maybe clean up a little bit that way if I need one. I got one, just because even if it's not the greatest, it's still better than nothing. I think, so between the two of them, I should have more than enough parts to put together one good one. I think I'm going to use, I might take this out. This piece is riveted in to the plastic. There's a couple rivets. You can't see them because of rust. I might take that out to blast it. I might not. I don't know yet. I should. I probably will. Then we've got a bunch of other little, this is all out of that 79, so a bunch of these other little pieces. Kind of piecing together some of the better, this one's obviously bad. Piecing together some of the other good stuff. I'm going to see if I can make a stencil for that, have that reproduced, so I can print it on there. I'll have to, you know, clean up probably that one, or maybe this one. Either one I don't think makes a lot of difference. Actually, it does. This one's broken. So there we go. I'm using that piece. But, so, like I said, between the two of them, I've got enough good pieces where I can make one out of the two, and then it'll get in there later. So, the little pieces have a date with the kitchen sink to get them cleaned up. They're gonna meet the pressure washer next time I get that dug out, when it's not 33 degrees outside and half snowing. Heater cores over there, they are gonna get taken to my radiator shop. The guy that does all that, have them checked, make sure they're good. I have to figure out how to test the AC evaporator core, excuse me. I know how to do it. It's just a matter of whether I can find enough fittings to make it happen. Just, you know, put it on my my vacuum pump and see what happens. What else? Got a bunch of stuff that's going to get sandblasted. Here's all my vacuum actuators. They all seem to push and pull, and you can hear air hissing. How good they are, I don't know. I'll test those as I start putting everything back together again. Surprisingly, both of these motors turned. They work okay. One of them squealed really bad, and the other one just turned, I guess. Didn't make any noise, but it was super stiff. I mean, it doesn't freewheel. As soon as you let the power off, it stops instantly. So I might just get a new motor if I can get one that looks right. Yeah, that's kind of the next step. None of this is a big hurry, because I don't have my kit, my rebuild kit for the box, which is, I can't remember where I get that. You'll see it later. It's got all the foam and everything else, all the little doodads in there. But yeah. So it's heater box rebuild day. I've got this cleaned up, ready to go. I've got my kit laid out here. All the foam pieces are kind of laying out, straightening out again because they're all in a big bag. And the kit itself for all the foams and everything comes from Detroit Muscle Technologies. I've got this kit from them before. It's got really good instructions, you know, kind of right there, you know, tells you even how to spray in case you've never done this before. I've done stuff like this many times, so it's not a big deal. But it goes through all the steps, you know, basically step by step how to put it all together. All you need is good pieces to start with. This kit that I got this time seems a little better than the one I got about a year ago, because there's some pieces, either maybe they got forgot in the last one or he's added stuff. But, you know, like these particular pieces of foam, I don't remember them being in the last one. I remember them just being, you know, this type of foam. So hopefully it's getting better. And because I know there was a couple pieces last time that I didn't have that I made using scraps of some of the leftovers. Like some of it, there's a lot of scrap, but that's just the way the process is. Like I say, and everything is like even, it's written right into the foam what each piece is for, a lot of it anyway. So like I say, it's a pretty darn good kit. And we're gonna go through it, and it's gonna look beautiful. So we're about, well, a little more than half done, for sure. All basically back together. I still have to, once I've got a little bit of paint drying in a few places, I had to touch up a couple things. Flip it over, I'll get the insulation on this part. Then I gotta put my vacuum actuators back on and test all those. Make sure it's good. Still have a few little detail items to clean up and put on. And again, that's when it gets flipped over, I'll get to that. Otherwise, going pretty good. Everything seems to be working nice. The doors operate like they're supposed to. I had to mess with a screw on the other side. It was interfering with one, but minor stuff. Minor stuff. There it is. Almost all together. You know, I've got like the resistor to put in yet, but whatever. See, it's all, I know it's hard to tell. It's all black. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? So you'll notice. So before I get into why this is here, explain the vacuum operated solenoid things, actuators, whatever you want to call them. I always test them 3 ways. First, even before I put them on, I'll hook vacuum up to either side, either directly or through the line, whichever. Usually just directly, just because, you know, the lines may be bad. And I'll test them to make sure that they work both directions and they're smooth and there's no leaks. If they are, then I'll bolt them on. It's a good thing I took 2 of these things apart, because one of these was bad. I forget which one. And the other one popped on there. You'll notice, yeah, there's rust up here. I didn't clean these up because you can't see them anyway. I'm not going to worry about like going insane like that. But just make sure that like this area where they go in and out is rust free. I always put a little oil on there too, just to help. This is the only one that I really paint, because you can kind of sometimes see that one. So once I check them before I bolt them on, they're good. I bolt them on, then I'll just put a vacuum. I've got a little plug I'll put right into the end of the connector here, and I'll check to make sure that that works both directions. You know, and that checks the lines too to make sure that they're okay. When that's done, then I grab an actual control unit, plug that in, hook my vacuum up to the vacuum line that would be like, say, running to the engine itself. I'll hook that up, pump it, and then run it through its paces. You know, make sure then that each door moves the way it's supposed to in accordance with whatever the heater control setting is at. Everything's fine. Everything's working like it's supposed to. It moves kind of slow right now because all that foam is brand new and fresh and whatnot. And the other thing too, usually before I get to this point, just checking at, from here over, I was, 10 psi is kind of like on the top end of where I want to see everything fully seated. And then there isn't a vacuum reserve, so if it's at that or a little higher than that, I'm not going to get too super concerned. But that's kind of the nice spot. That way it's going to move good. When I get to this point, testing it through here, it takes a lot more vacuum because usually it's moving 2, sometimes 3 of these all at the same time, depending on which one you're going to and from. So it takes a lot more, and like I said, there's no vacuum reserve. You're just whatever you can pump as fast as you can pump it. So some of those will take more than 10 pounds to get every door fully seated, simply because you're moving a whole lot more. And after a while, once all that foam kind of gets settled into place, gets wore down where it needs to be wore down, it'll move a lot easier. And then especially once it's in a vehicle and you have that constant vacuum source, everything happens a lot better anyway. So, but everything works like it's supposed to. I ran this thing through its paces a few times. I see I've got a little crack I need to deal with. And it's kind of crusty in there, but that is a project for another day. For now, this is good. I'm going to get it bolted in so it's out of my way. And that should be all I'm going to do with that for quite a while until I get deeper into the rest of the interior stuff. And one other thing I almost forgot. So you'll notice there's this mesh right here I added. Since there's not anything to stop the mice and the varmint and the whatever else from getting into the inside of your vehicle through the heater, because they can just walk or crawl or whatever right down the inside of the cowl panel where the air goes, they can get right in. Well, I did this on another vehicle this past winter. This is just a piece of aluminum mesh. You get it in the grilling section of like Ace Hardware or something like that. It's designed, they're cheap throwaway kind of things. It's just an aluminum, expanded metal kind of thing. I glued that in underneath the foam. So, and it's in there. It's in there pretty solid right now. And the whole idea with it is so that it does exactly that. It keeps the mice out. Hopefully the bigger leaves and stuff won't get sucked in there, because a lot of times you'll see that too if you take an old truck apart. It's half packed full of leaves and garbage. And that helps keep all that stuff out. Hopefully it does not turn into a mistake long term. I don't think it will, because it doesn't interfere with anything. The door, closes fine without it there. It's all the way closed. There's no reason to reach into there once you get this put into the vehicle. So I think this whole idea, I think, is a good one. And I painted it, not that it needed it, but I had the can of paint out, so I blasted it quick with the bomb can.